Good morning. Joe, it's wonderful to see you at the piano. Love your music. My name is Celane, and I'm your service leader this morning. We gather in fellowship each Sunday morning from different backgrounds, lifestyles, spiritual beliefs, and experiences, celebrating a commitment to diversity and inclusion, and love for each other and love for the great wide world that's outside. All are welcome. May our joining together this morning be a blessing to all. As we light this chalice this morning, or after we light this chalice this morning, when the great mosaic of humanity is treated with respect and dignity, when no person is threatened by hunger or war, when we have extended hospitality to the stranger and tended to the sick, when equity and justice reign everywhere, then we shall all be free. We light this flame to hold that moment in our spirit and in our minds until we can make it real. I want to open this morning with a little brief statement from Muhammad Ali. Wars of nation are fought to change maps, but wars of poverty are fought to map change. Think of that. And that's what we want to do, is change the map. Now Tom has a reading.
Now, reading typically means reading someone else's words. We use are anything but typical. A reading can also mean things like reading the tea leaves, reading the terrain, or reading your own comfort zones. Jim Mellon, a good friend from our UU church in Birmingham, Bloomfield, Michigan, stopped by this summer. He and his wife had retired to Florida more than a decade ago, where she had passed away. Kate, his wife, was the stronger personality. Jim had taken a reading of his own anxiety level with the annual threats of hurricanes and had opted to relocate to the mountains. Asheville, North Carolina. Readings don't always work out. He's okay, but is sick of hauling water in blue jerry cans. At early UUFR, we took a reading of the risks of owning a home of our own that led to funding an endowment controlled by your trustees to protect against the uninsurable, like flood and building settlement, so on. Our reading of this location with an abandoned house in the midst of a black community was a good choice. Then, in clearing trees, a dump truck sunk to its axles after a rain, requiring a crane to remove it. Then we found softness while digging the footings in the northeast corner. Readings from a soils engineer's equipment said solid ground was there, but down about 6 feet. We bored deeper footings. Our readings of the flood level during Ernesto reached up the backyard all the way to the septic tanks. I get lost in this language. So that encouraged us to notice the WPA ditches on adjacent property and improve the rainwater management system with pumps. With a better reading, our building addition has carefully engineered footings in the trouble spot. That building endowment is there, healthy, and protecting our distant future. Reading the future of the most challenged youngsters in our 4 counties is not encouraging. You may wish to peruse the life's work of Dr. Ruby Payne referred to in the bulletin quotes, or be familiar with today's academic gap between children of poverty and their more fortunate peers. Your elected trustees are doing some things about that too. Your trustee team would like to tell you more in a few minutes so you can share the joys of our progress and get a good reading on our future.
Thank you. So, now to our program. Let me introduce you to our speakers, who you all know, so I'm not going to do grand introductions, and to the issues that are the students that we serve on your behalf. First part, Kids First, Servita Scholarships, major tools a trustee team use on your behalf to help end the impact of generational poverty in our communities. The Servitas Endowment trustees manage sometimes $30,000 to $40,000 a year from the endowment fund returns each year to support youth out of poverty and enrich their lives. These are young children, new daycare program we'll talk about, and scholarships that are generous scholarships. We're about the most generous scholarship that I see at awards night in Middlesex High School. Speaking to you this morning on the Servitas efforts to combat poverty are trustees Tom Kinney, Barbara Haynes, Servitas advisory team member Tom Parrish, and moi. I will not further introduce because they're well known already. Before their studies, I do want to offer a general introduction to the Servita Scholars, 4 of whom we select each spring to support with assistance during their university or career training years. Our scholars choose different paths, all leading to careers and incomes their parents could only dream of. Most are first-generation university students. Some follow siblings who have paved the path for them to pave the way. Some lead the way for younger siblings. They embrace the importance of education and work, and they are so impressive. They excel academically. They excel in extracurricular activities and in their personal lives as well. Jobs, community involvement, commitment to their faith, all while they are taking rigorous classes. Servitas is helping or has helped prepare doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, physical therapists, sports medicine professionals, scientists, engineers, entrepreneurs, cybersecurity experts, artists, musicians, marketing, investment and wealth managers, and more. My little squad in Middlesex County are thriving in nursing study at RCC, and she will be going out into the world at the end of this semester. Biochemistry and anthropology at Eastern State University in North Carolina. Nurse practitioner in making at Fairham College, and a candidate for Doctor of PT at VCU School of Medicine. All of them are well set to break the cycle of poverty for themselves and hopefully their families. And now I introduce to you Tom Parrish, who we all heard from last week, so we need him.
I'm just an advisor to this. This is my first year. I listened to the trustees speak last year, and I was very impressed by what UU was doing, so I said I'd like to be involved. This year my job was to take a look at be the sponsor for the Lancaster County students. I will tell you this, I was very, very impressed with the students that we saw, the grade point averages, the number of DEs, which are, I gotta remember what that stands for. It's dual enrollments, you know, getting college credits already by going to community college, the number of advanced courses that they had been taking, and what have you. Grade point averages were well above, you could have multiplied my high school average times 2 and still wouldn't have made to what they were averaging. I was just very impressed by it. I would say this, I would like to see more active participation by the Lancaster County counselors. I don't think that there's enough counseling going on what's available to the students. I have been talking to them just recently, making some suggestions, and I intend to follow through with it. What you can do better on telling these students what's available. My one example was ROTC scholarships. Each one of the services offers ROTC scholarships, full ride. They don't brief them. They expect that the Air Force ROTC chief is supposed to do that, but they don't brief it. So I'm going to try to figure out how, some way we can get out there and get that word out. Over to you, Barbara.
In my role as a Civitas trustee, I've been following the scholars that graduated from Northumberland High School. I live down the road in Reedville. So, and our program started in 2017. I presently correspond with 7 scholars in college and beyond. It's been interesting not only to follow them through their college careers, but to see how they set up their careers and their lives and their homes. So this has been a really pleasure for me. I let them know that once they're a Civitas scholar, they always are a Civitas scholar. They need to correspond with me, even when they're out there working. They came for most part, as Celane mentioned, from very challenging circumstances, and they have prevailed. They include Alice, who married after she entered college and had to drop out for work. She let us know that she was still interested in furthering her education and is now in Baylor University in Texas. After graduation in 2025, she plans to apply to the Army Physical Therapy Unit in San Antonio, Texas, and she plans to earn a doctorate in physical therapy. Also, Lucinda found her passion for working for improve the environment while she was at ODU, and so she presently is working as an orchard manager with the Meadowview Research Farms, conducting testing and research to restore the American chestnut tree, which is functionally extinct. And if you go throughout Virginia, in some of the rural areas, you'll see the split rail fences. Some of them still exist that were made from those chestnut trees that were cut down. Then there's Anna and Caroline, both majoring in the field of nursing, both working toward advanced degrees in the field. Anna, having graduated from VCU, works full-time in Henrico Doctors Hospital in Richmond. And Caroline, currently at James Madison University, is determined to move through her undergraduate requirements to the nurse practitioner level in the shortest time possible. I do want to do an update on David. I had talked about David before. David was the first Civitas scholar that I work with from Northumberland County. He came with no permanent home. His mother was in prison. His dad was not on the scene. And so he was so determined when he was in high school and went to Virginia Tech to succeed. He now is associate scientist at a global pharmaceutical firm in Madison, Wisconsin, doing very important work in research work in cancer treatment and the new RNA technology. We're just so proud of him. As you can see, it's been our privilege to work with this amazing group of young people. And we know as we work with them and they go out in the world, they're going to make an amazing difference in the future.
We currently have 19 kids that we are financially supporting. And we give them a larger scholarship at first, and then year by year, as long as they're in school, or if they could drop out and come back to school, we continue to give them financial support. And it's really tough to pick among the 19 share with, but I'll pick one here. A UUFR Cervita Scholarship recipient from Matthews had an outstanding high school record, but with a single mom with an annual income of only $5,000 and a home assessed for taxes at $84,000, she really needed help. She was ejected from George Mason University in her second year due to not paying her tuition on time. The root cause? Poor money management, plus dependence upon some weak promises. She had discovered that her peers at GMU had received from their parents basic money management training that she had missed. She moaned that some had even been taken to banks to learn about savings accounts, loans, and money management. She grew up in a different culture, no funds to manage. Through nearly 3 months of email exchanges, we helped her understand cash flow, establish a budget, plan her income and her expenses, and start a part-time job search, and to get back on track at GMU toward her goal in computer science. But also everyday living skills that she had missed in a household barely existing from paycheck to maybe or maybe not another paycheck, with no plan for a financial future. We stick with these kids and help them in any way we can. Okay, moving on. In 2011, UUFR members examined 6 areas of activity in order to choose our niche to make a measurable change better in our 4 counties. The vote was to end generational poverty, which we felt also had an anti-racist. Our research into what works led to the National Institute of Early Education research at Rutgers that had found in a 5-decade-long study that about the only program that proved successful was high-quality 3 pre-K. From that, we planted the seed for UUFR's Kids First Foundation to bring 3K to our 4-county school systems. Those classes blossomed in Lancaster and Middlesex schools, but are still just buds in Matthews and Northumberland. We continue to water and fertilize those buds. In 2015, our Cervitas Endowment Fund, managed by your elected trustees, joined this end of generational poverty train, adding support with its book per month per child in all 3 pre-K classes and scholarships for all these high school kids that we've mentioned. Your trustees continue to monitor the growing science of understanding early child development, especially where the development of infants and toddlers of poverty fall behind. Some of you might recall the Kansas and Alaska study that got quite a bit of general press a decade or more ago. That study noted that a middle class or higher child heard 500,000 positive more words like good job than negative words like don't by the time of starting kindergarten. Whereas the generational poverty child heard the reverse, 125,000 words more negative than positive words, which slow their development and lower their self-confidence. Understanding child development research continues. A research report last year addressed the process by which an infant's auditory portion of the brain becomes able to recognize the specific sounds of its native language. That happens from birth and ends about 9 months, when unused neurons are assigned to other purposes. What that means is we English speakers, the opportunity to hear and say the O sound in German, or to the Japanese speakers to be able to differentiate between the L and the R sound, is lost while they're yet a baby. Those of you who have tried to speak German or have spoken English to native Japanese know what I'm talking about. So here is what that has to do with UUFR's niche. Accelerating development and filling deficits can and does happen in high-quality daycare. Daycares that are conscious of and function as infant and toddler learning centers. If we could only upgrade the more daycares to learning centers. The Vision Survey of the Northern Neck identified the unmet need among the families living on the edge for affordable, high-quality daycare. The service organizations, including social services, did not even identify that in the survey, what they thought was needed. Thus, we have a match between the need and the opportunity to make a difference in child development for generational poverty families with increasing employment availability for the parents. This growing science of child development planted the seed for another step forward in UUFR's niche in trying to end generational poverty. Since 2 of your elected trustees are also officers in UUFR's First Foundation, we studied what might be productive. Now, I'll turn this over to Celane to do in on our progress to date. I'll be back for a wrap-up.
I'll be quick. I'm going to introduce you to 3 entities. First Spark, Ready Regions, and Ready Region Chesapeake Bay, and 2 individuals, and Nancy Knoll. First Spark is a nonprofit organization in Newport News providing quality early education support to providers and parents, and they are government, they receive state contracts to do that. They are also a lead organization in the state's Ready Regions network. Ready Regions is a state regional network of 5 regions in the state providing what First Spark does, support to providers and quality early childhood education. The Ready Region Chesapeake Bay is a region we share with Tidewater, the Peninsula, Northern Neck, and Peninsula. Diane Umstead is executive director, and Nancy Knoll is the staff in our region for these services. And I'm sure you can guess the reason that I list these, because must we have a financial relationship with them? And indeed we do. A couple of years ago, Tom and I began to muse on what kind of mischief Kids First and Service could partner on next to expand the battle on poverty for young kids and their families. The Kids First classes in Lancaster and Middlesex, we only support them for 3 years, and then the schools take over. And that was a big negotiation with each of those schools that Tom was responsible for. Those kids are in elementary school. We only send them books now, and we cheer on the reports that we get that they're doing well. The next real challenge was for those younger than 3. Tom referenced a study, the Wiley study, surveys from a few years ago earlier, identifying quality daycare. First issue, of course, lack of providers. Why and what could we do to build more? Well, the 2 key barriers were terrible, terrible burdensome bureaucratic paper that takes so much time from the providers that they steal it from the kids, and the lack of easily accessible staff training in our rural area. So we considered for 2 seconds to start our own daycare program the same way, let's show them how to do it in this county, and maybe it could be a training center. And that was about 2 seconds, and then we put that option in the rear. What else could we do? Could Kids First and Servetus hire a navigator to work with providers on paperwork issues, forms, questionnaires, reports, staff training, so their staff didn't have to drive to Richmond or further for training? We thought that would be direct hire force, so we were just trying to figure out how to make that work and where we would go to find somebody. Bam, we got a call from Diane Umstead. At that time, she was from Better Beginnings. She morphed into First Spark. She was working with the state to become the lead agency in the Chesapeake Ready Regions area to provide support to the providers, to figure out why the providers were having a hard time, to work with the families, to expand the number of providers in the area, exactly what we had been talking about for a year and in our head trying to figure out. And they were going to be moving into the Northern Neck and Middle Peninsula with their government contract, the gift right at our feet. We felt slightly territorial for minutes and suspect for just about 5 minutes. When we met her, she wowed us with her energy and the commitment she had to exactly what we were talking about. She could offer the navigator training we saw. By the fall, now that was in the spring, by the fall, after months of meetings, state funding issues, negotiations for funding to cover losses from cuts in the state budget, working with Leslie Franklin. What's Leslie's last? Leslie Franklin at the Wiley Foundation, able to negotiate a proposal and final solution to a First Spark funding. $32,000, $16,000 from Servetus and $16,000 from Wiley Foundation, it was lovely to be doing this collaboratively because the Wiley Foundation has done so much work in this area. With funding, they were able to hit the ground running. I think we sent the check in early 2024. Nancy Knoll was hired, and they are rocking. We don't hover, but we do stay in touch, and we know they're doing well. Recently, we attended a meet and greet morning they hosted in the Lancaster Library with providers, state and local agencies, and Professional Early Childhood Association representatives. It was an impressive meeting, and we believe that they are going to make a difference. It's not going to solve everything. They are on the road to building at least growing a quality early childhood and early learning, not daycare, but early learning opportunities for young children in this area from birth. And they can get into a pre, hopefully. So that is our latest endeavor, and we are thrilled that we were able to dream it up and have it show up, and we will be following along with them. Tom?
And Nancy Knoll's focus is on the 4 counties that we are supporting. So that was really great. They had not been into these counties prior to our stepping forward. Okay, wrap up on a few how your trustees fit into UUFR's activity. We trustees are trusted to make sure our 4 endowments do the job promised to those who funded those endowments. You're likely familiar with endowments related to your schools, colleges, or universities that are typically funded by the alums, controlled by alums, dedicated to using the earnings with the long view, and protected from invasion by the everyday operating boards under pressure to meet short-term needs. Your trustees' returns on our investments versus the eight Ivy League endowment schools, the endowments of the 8 Ivy League schools. Last year, in comparing our returns versus theirs, we ranked number 3. The year before, we were number 1. And we beat all of them. The year before that, we beat Columbia. So you should be pleased. Not bad for a little church. UUFR has 4 endowments: Cerritos Funds, Community Outreach, Pathways of Remembrance, maintains our memorial area. A new ministerial endowment will, when it's fully funded, pay a portion of our minister's salary. And our Building and Grounds endowment guards against catastrophe. The threats of catastrophe have evolved from an active membership of 25 about 20 years ago, and a membership that could have dropped to half that, still trying to support a building. And now we have a membership of around 70 and a building investment of over $500,000, with still a risk of floods, foundation settling, hurricane, and so on, all being not able to be covered by insurance. Many of you here would likely not be here with us today if we were still a relatively low profile and meeting in the Women's Club, a converted small house. We are so glad you're here, and we hope you share the joy of what we together are accomplishing. If you are interested in our scholarship program, aiding the little ones of poverty, or securing UUFR's financial future, please let me know by email or other means. Tom Parrish did that a year or so ago, and now he's changing lives too. Back to you for comments, questions, discussion.
We are at 11:30. Do you continue, or do you want to just talk out in the?
I think it's very important that everybody know where all this money is coming from that we're giving away in the community. It's a great thing, but I don't think people necessarily understand. For instance, the Cerritos Fund was one particular very, and the others have been given by members of the UUFR over the years. But I think everybody needs to know that this isn't just that we have all this money that we can do anything.
Yeah, we wish we did. Lynn, I'll answer that, but I also want to honor the $8,100 that we have in our budget this year to support charities, and you may or may not know that. There's a formula in the budget, and each year we determine how much we give, but we have a commitment to give a percentage of our proceeds to feedback in the community. And this year's it's totally separate, but I think I do noting that other charitable organizations we support out of the when you pay your donations.
The Cerritos Fund prize funds were from 2 sources. One is a couple that will remain anonymous. Another was from another very active and founder member here, which was Dr. Pirko Graves. I might have had something to do with that because I was the trustee of her trust, and I was also the executor of her will when she passed away in 2015. So that's where Cerritos comes from. The other funds, the endowment fund, the building and grounds was a part of our original fundraising activity here, because we said if we're going to go ahead and own a building, we got to cover the involved in doing that. So that's where that one came from. The Pathways of Remembrance Memorial area is primarily from those who have memorialized in the area. And the ministerial one is from when we decided that we were getting close to being able to hire a minister in 2015, we said, okay, how do you want to do that? The board decided they wanted to do that through an endowment to cover half of a quarter-time minister, or half-time minister. So that has been, various people have contributed to that one. That's the only one right now that needs money. There's another fund that's available strictly to the board members, not to the trustees, built up over the years. For so many years, we ended up with a residual at the year. There's more given than what we had to spend. We got in investments around $160,000. So that's another fund that the board can draw, both an opportunity fund. Okay, so there's an overview of where the money.
They donated money to a particular endowment, which was Pirco was very prescribed her money, are protected material on how it can be spent. Okay, other questions, concerns? And again, we encourage, we're a small team and we would love to have more people in the do. So let us know if you're interested in any of these.